Ricardo Arroyo. I'm the chair of the Committee on Government Operations. It is Tuesday, February 15th, 2022, and we are here today for a virtual hearing on docket number 0186. It's petition for a special law regarding an act providing certain retirement benefits for a widow of a former firefighter of the city of Boston. It was referred to the committee on January 26, 2022. I sponsored this docket, and it is a refile from last year in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public. The City Council will be conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom, and it is being recorded. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health accommodations and ensuring public access to deliberations through adequate alternative means. The public may watch this hearing via live stream at www.boston.gov City Council TV and on Xfinity 8 RCN 82 Verizon 964. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at cc.go@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. This home rule petition would authorize the Boston Retirement Board to pay a line of duty death benefit to Maria Rodriguez, the widow of Leroy Rodriguez or Roy Rodriguez, who was a former Boston firefighter who died as a result of injuries sustained while performing the essential duties of a firefighter. Under this proposal, the benefits will be paid and administered pursuant to Section 100 of Chapter 32 of the General Laws. The proposal outlines the amount of the benefit and provides that surviving children shall be eligible for original appointment to the Boston Fire Department and considered survivors under Section 26 of Chapter 31 of the General Laws. Joining the committee today are Timothy Smith, the Executive Office of the Boston Retirement Board, Michael O'Reilly, who is a legislative agent of the Boston Firefighters Local 718, and Maria Rodriguez, who is the widow of Leroy Rodriguez. As the chair, I'm going to go ahead and waive introductory remarks from council colleagues since this docket is a refile. We held a hearing on this on September 20th, 2021, and I'm going to sort of give an overview of what is before us today. This hearing is really to familiarize new councilors, of which we have 5, with what the details of this are and why we're doing this before we take a vote, hopefully tomorrow. We're going to start with Timothy Smith from the Retirement Board, who is here to talk generally about the procedure for death benefits and answer procedural questions. He cannot weigh in for or against member requests, so just to guide the conversation, I'm going to ask him to describe the difference between Section 9 and Section 100 benefits, what the process is like following a death, and what process would look like if someone wanted to change the benefits they were receiving, and then also how the board determines which benefits someone is eligible to receive and how the state legislation plays into this. And just as way of background for the counselors, Maria is here, but I just want to be clear that the circumstances that occurred were a Boston firefighter, Leroy Rodriguez, was responding to a fire, tore his Achilles on the way to that fire, still fought that fire, and then when he was receiving surgery that week on that torn Achilles, passed away on the operating table, and that to me fits sort of the definition of Section 100 benefits, that the injuries causing death are sustained in the line of duty, and this is to me that, and so those are the details. We'll allow Ms. Rodriguez to speak after we go through Timothy Smith, but I just want to go directly to Timothy Smith about sort of the Section 100 benefits in that process. Is he here? It doesn't look like the retirement board is actually here.
Mr. Chair, I don't see Timothy Smith yet. He confirmed he was coming, but I don't see him on yet.
Okay, so we're going to do this sort of out of order. And I'm going to just ask Mr. O'Reilly, I guess, to give some background and Ms. Rodriguez as well. And I just want to be clear, I expect that this will be going up for a vote tomorrow. This is a hearing to familiarize everybody with what the issue is and what we're trying to get done. We have 5 new counselors since the last time you were here, Ms. Rodriguez, on the council, and I just want them to know who the people are behind this, sort of what the urgency is behind this. I know for instance, that your son would like to become a firefighter, part of the survivor benefits are that he then joins the priority list and he's running up against an age requirement, which maybe Mr. O'Reilly, you're able to explain as well. But I'm going to give the floor to you both until Mr. Smith gets here. Thank you both for being here. And again, sorry for your loss, and thank you to your husband and your family for what they've sacrificed for the city. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Michael O'Reilly. I'm with Boston Firefighters Local 718. I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing and allowing us the opportunity to appear before you and testify on this docket 0186. In my 10 plus years up on Beacon Hill, if one thing I've learned, behind every lawmaker, legislator, city councilor, there's usually an amazing staff behind them who kind of puts a lot of this together. So I would be remiss if I didn't publicly thank your staff, you personally, but your staff, Yasmin and Jordan, from the very first day that we met out at Representative Consalvo's field office in Hyde Park, there have been nothing, you yourself, but your staff have been nothing but professional, and the communication's been unreal. I just want to publicly thank Yasmin and Jordan for all their hard work, and yours as well. So a little update on July to the incident on July 1st of 2019. Lieutenant Rodriguez was working that night on Ladder 25 out on Center Street in West Roxbury. He responded to a building fire, dispatched and responded to a building fire at 1045 River Street in Mattapan. Now, the significance actually to Lieutenant Rodriguez's assignment, his company assignment that day, was he was assigned as the RIT truck. RIT stands for Rapid Intervention Team. Rapid Intervention Teams are basically for when rescuers need rescue. They are put in place at every confirmed fire. There is a team of firefighters who are specially trained in the search and rescue of just firefighters. If a firefighter goes down, maybe there's, whether it be a collapse, gone through a floor, gone through a roof, this team is put into place to go in after that firefighter. That was Lieutenant Rodriguez's assignment that night. I think it's important to know that, because when Lieutenant Rodriguez slid the pole to respond to this fire and he blew out his Achilles, because he knew the importance of that mission, he could very well have said, hey, I can't go, I'm hurt, the truck's out of service, whatever. But he knew that if he didn't get there when he was supposed to get there, and God forbid there was a mayday or something, so he, despite the pain, he got on the truck, he got dressed, he responded to that fire. Fortunately, there was no maydays, there was no death or injuries that involved with the fire at all, other than his very own injury. The fire now was at 0:45 hours, so about 1:15 in the morning. He went back to quarters after the incident. He actually remained on duty despite blowing out his Achilles, which I don't know personally, but from guys that I've known, folks that I've known that have blown out Achilles, it's a quite painful injury. He stayed on till the very end of his tour, when he was actually relieved by the incoming lieutenant at 06 a.m. The following morning. So that is basically the incident. He of course filed the proper paperwork for the injured on duty. He was carried injured on duty 111F. One of the biggest things that amazes me in this whole thing is He was hurt on July 1st, and he was in an operating room. This is how much he just wanted to come back to work. He was already in an operating room getting his Achilles fixed on July 11th. So just 10 days, 11 days, I think, whatever that is, later, and he was already in getting it repaired. Unfortunately, while he was in getting his Achilles repaired, he suffered what they determined as a, give me 1 minute here, second, an anoxic brain injury, which was from a prolonged cardiac arrest. So I'm not going to read this whole thing because I don't want to actually bring Maria back through the, all the details if it was, but it was reviewed by Christine Campbell Reardon, she's an MD, a pulmonary critical care medicine doctor, which the retirement board uses for determining these things such as this. In her words, she writes, "It is my medical opinion, based upon the records provided for review, that Fire Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez died as a result of a cardiac arrest that occurred during a surgical procedure to correct an injury sustained while performing his duties as a Boston Fire Department firefighter. Lieutenant Rodriguez was not known to have any pre-existing heart disease when he was appointed to the department. During his initial medical clearance exam, Dr. Cronman determined he did not have any increased cardiac risk and cleared him for repair of his Achilles tendon." And then further, she writes, "It is my medical opinion that Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez, the cause of his anoxic brain injury was from the prolonged cardiac arrest. Despite aggressive CPR and advanced life support measures in targeted temperature therapy, he still sustained a severe anoxic brain injury. The cardiac arrest occurred during the surgery for which his Achilles tendon injury that occurred while working as a Boston firefighter. Had this injury not occurred, Lieutenant Rodriguez would not have required the surgical intervention, and the series of events leading to his death would not have occurred. It was a necessity for Lieutenant Rodriguez to undergo surgical repair of his Achilles tendon so that he could walk and also be able to return to his duties as a Boston Fire Lieutenant. Therefore, it is my opinion that Lieutenant Rodriguez's death was the direct result of the accident that occurred while in the performance of his duties." Now, I highlight that, Mr. Chairman and councilors, and I will refer to Chapter 32, Section 100, which states, Section 100, notwithstanding any provision of this chapter. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read a few excerpts out of it.
And just Mr. O'Reilly, before we do that, just to be clear, and also I want to just name the counselors that are here. We're joined today by Council President Ed Flynn, Counselor at Large Erin Murphy, Counselor from District 1, Counselor Lydia Edwards, Counselor from District 4, Counselor Brian Worrell, and Counselor at Large Ruth C. Louis Jen. And I'll give them the floor in a moment, but I just want to be clear. Section 100 is the death survivor benefits, correct? That's the section you're about to read from, is the benefits that we are seeking to ensure she receives with this legislation, correct?
Yes, correct, Mr. Chairman. It's Chapter 32, Section 100, which title says pensions to surviving spouses of firefighters, police officers, or correction officers killed in the performance of duties. So, notwithstanding any provision of this chapter or any other general law to the contrary, if a firefighter, while in the performance of his duties and as the result of an accident, while responding to or returning from an alarm of fire or any emergency, or as the result of an accident involving a fire department vehicle, which the firefighter is operating or in which he is riding, or while at the scene of a fire or any emergency, is killed, and this is the important sentence, is killed or sustains injuries which result in his death. That is, to me, the most important sentence of that is that he is killed or sustains injuries. As we go back to Dr. Christine Reardon's report, it is evident in her medical opinion that he died as a result of his injuries, because as she said, if he had not blown out his Achilles, he would have never been on the operating table receiving surgery to repair that Achilles tendon. It's not probably very common. I think if there is any gray area, I think it's because everyone thinks a line of duty death is, a Beacon Street fire, something where it was just a raging inferno and, God forbid, a collapse or something and what I would refer to, and I don't, not to belittle, but it's like a blaze of glory, if you will. I'll refer, because this is one of most, to me, one of the most significant cases is as far as this type of thing goes. Lieutenant James F. Flahive, age 67, of Rescue Company 1. Hosman Warren E. Bernard, age 28, Rescue Company 1. And Hosman Patrick J. Caddy, age 27, of Engine Company 39. On October 22nd, 1946, Hosman Bernard and Hosman Caddy died, and Lieutenant Flahive was severely injured from the inhalation of smoke and poisonous gases from burning fir in the basement of the Carcass Firs, 70 to 72 Chauncey Street, downtown, box 1463, Chauncey Street and Rowe Place at 1707 hours. Hosman Bernard had 4 years and Hosman Caddy had 10 months of service. Lieutenant Flahive, now remember, the fire was in 1946. Lieutenant Flahive died on March 6th, 1974, some 28 years later, at age 67, after never regaining consciousness from the effects of the poisonous gas and smoke that he received on October 22nd, 1946. I bring that to your attention just to highlight that, although these things, because of obviously our medical system and stuff in place today, that these things don't happen all the time. However, they do happen. There have been line of duty deaths awarded and surviving spouses or widows receiving the proper benefit. Now, just to touch real briefly on the benefit itself. So on the 16th, I believe it was, right? July 16th?
July 16th.
The surgery was on the 11th. Lieutenant Rodriguez actually died on July 16th. As you can all imagine, Mrs. Rodriguez's world was turned upside down. And like most firefighter families, she probably didn't know the difference between ladder 25 and engine 30, or what group Leroy was on, or, a lot of these things that, because it's, a lot of times we don't bring the work home to our families. Nor did she really understand the pension system or how that worked. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or blaming anybody in this process, but when Mrs. Rodriguez was going through the process with the retirement board, the pension and welfare offices for the local explained and filed her paperwork, and not understanding, of course, her world in a tailspin at this time. what she thought she was applying for was the 100. She didn't even know the difference. 100, a section 100 or a section 9 to her back then, it didn't mean anything. And then it wasn't until later, after the section 9 was awarded, that she realized, and I believe, and I'll let her speak to this, but I believe it was from talking to friends and, wives of firemen and stuff that she knew. And she reached out to the 718 office. The call was referred to me, and she just wanted to know if she was getting the correct benefits. And when I started looking into it, and I knew of the whole situation. I was at the funeral. I just assumed that she was receiving the proper benefits, the Section 100.
And Mr. O'Reilly, if I could just interrupt there, the reason you would have assumed that is there are certain benefits in the funeral services and the way in which members of the Boston Firefighters Department are honored in death when they die in the line of duty. There's special honors that are given, correct? And that was given here, correct?
Yes, correct. Like one of them, for example, is the only time a casket rides on the back of a fire truck is if it's a full or considered a line of duty death.
And that occurred here.
And that occurred, yes.
So if you had attended the funeral services, the natural understanding that you would have had was this is a death in the line of duty.
Correct.
Benefit package.
Correct. And actually, I might be stealing Mrs. Rodriguez's thunder here, but I went back in and looked up at some tweets in a Boston Globe article. There's a tweet from Commissioner Joe Finn, who was the commissioner at the time, and it says, I quote, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to the family of Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez of Ladder 25, who died in the line of duty. My thoughts and prayers are with you during this difficult time. So another one, Boston Fire Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez of Ladder 25 died in the line of duty, Commissioner Joe Finn said in a tweet Wednesday afternoon. But you're right. Along with that, you get the full-blown honor guard. I hate to call it this, but I don't know another term in death. But basically, there's a different kind of pomp and circumstance with the line of duty. You get the full brigade. You get the standing outside of the formation, the inviting of dignitaries, whether it be the mayor, members from the legislature, the city council, stuff like that. So, but yeah, there is certain protocols that go along with the line of duty death. So
one question.
Having her been filed, unbeknownst to her, a Section 9 versus the Section 100 and then approved. You had mentioned, Mr. Chairman, earlier in your remarks of a young man who wants nothing more, born and raised in this city, lifelong resident who wants his scored, and Maria can touch on a more 99s, 98s, 100s, many times on tests, but was then able to obtain a job with the Boston Fire Department. All he ever wanted to do was follow, and this precedes Lieutenant Rodriguez's death. His son, Leroy Jr., always wanted to be a Boston firefighter, wanted to follow in the footsteps of his father, just like I did, and just like many Boston firefighters today who are second and third and sometimes fourth generation firefighters. But he's 31 now. The age to the last age he could take a test is 32. I think he may have one more test in him. I know we can always go back to the legislature or through the city council to, waive the maximum, the maximum wage to the age to take the test and stuff like that. But we strategically chose this route because we figured this would be the fastest, cleanest, quickest way to get to that point, and where Leroy Jr. could fulfill his lifelong dream and continuing the legacy of the Rodriguez family and their service to the city. So that is the reason that we chose to go this route, and rather than to repetition the retirement board, because then you got to go through a lot of different processes, and then there's a possibility that if somebody's kind of maybe short-sighted determination of the law itself, results in some kind of denial, and then there's the appeal process. And we figure with this, there's really no appeal process. We'd appeal to city councilors, see where they stand and all this, and from the looking at the actual docket, it overwhelmingly, obviously, I think the city council wants to do the right thing and award Mrs. Rodriguez the Section 100 death benefit, in which she so rightly deserves. So with that, I'll answer any questions after or now, or whatever. But I'll turn it over to Maria Rodriguez, the wife of the late and great Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez. I might add too, there was no firefighter in this department in my 30-year career who was in better physical shape than Leroy Rodriguez. This kid, he was the guy that drank the green drinks out of the processor in the morning and constantly working out in the gym. He was proficient in, I don't know, I think 5 or 6 different martial arts. Like, this is what this guy did. I mean, this guy, his body was a temple. So there was nobody in better tip-top shape. But with that, I'll turn it over to Maria Rodriguez and let her speak.
Thank you, O'Reilly. Before we do that, I've been reached out to. We have someone with a time constraint that wouldn't be able to be back until much later. And so I want to make sure that whatever questions they have are able to be answered. I know Mr. Smith is not coming. We just received word that he's not going to be here today from the retirement board. But Councilor Edwards, the floor is yours for whatever questions you have.
Thank you. Just confirming you can hear me.
Yes, you're a little low on a volume scale, but you can be heard.
Okay. So I just wanted to note, and I appreciate that. Again, I was at the hearing in September, and I'm coming back here again. And I do think it's important that we have this conversation, because it is a rarity in this process, but it is an important process and decision that we have as counselors as to how we move around these benefits and how much they're worth, and who is honestly, unfortunately, we're in that position to determine who's deserving. I do want to note in the opinion that was, I think it was from Dr. Reardon, that was read, that along with noting that this was a direct result of an accident that occurred while in the performance of his duties, the sentence goes on to says, and his death qualifies for an accidental death benefit under the provisions of Section 9-94, Hart Law of Chapter 32 of Mass General Laws. And I know that that part of the decision wasn't read previously when discussing the direct causal impact. So I'm not here to debate if this was in a direct line of duty. The questions I have is that this is a decision been made that this was qualifying for a different set of benefits under Section 9. And what I'm hearing, the difference really is the spousal increase in benefits under Section 100, and also the preference for the firefighter. And if that's really the difference, I mean, there's no debate about him being a hero, about him being an incredible firefighter, about him being a loving husband or an incredible father. I'm not here to debate those things, but I want to make sure what we're fundamentally trying to do is just give an increase to the spouse and make sure the child has preferences. So let's just get down to fundamentals. And then number 2, I understand we could do at least for the child, or he's not a child, I'm sorry, for the son, we've done home rule petitions separately and apart to allow for exceptions for older police officers and firefighters before. This is to also inform my colleagues on the city council. So this is not a requirement that it be under Section 9 in order for him to be granted an age exemption. We've granted those before. So just wanted you to know that that's a separate conversation. It's not a requirement under Section 100. So what we're left with is a spouse, she filed under Section 9 and has learned that there's additional benefits, longer and larger benefits that she can get under Section 100. And that's what we're trying to do today, right?
So just a quick point of information. It's not the age. So this actually doesn't increase the age requirement, which is something we have done before. There's a separate priority list when you are the child of someone who has died in the line of duty. It actually is a priority list, which is not something we've ever done before. I'm not even sure if we have the ability to put somebody on a priority list unless we make this change. The reason that we're on the time sort of constraint to do this in the first place was because it's not an age exception or age waiver exception. He has until 32 years old currently to sort of access that benefit. And even if we gave him an age exception so that which we've done in the past, in fact, I think we'll likely do it this year again. But when we do the age exception, it doesn't give them the priority access, which is a completely separate thing. And I think, Mr. O'Reilly can probably, and I don't want to cut you off, Councilor Edwards, if you have more questions, we can do that. But Mr. O'Reilly, just in the bank, if you can sort of discuss how the priority list works, because my understanding is legitimately being on the priority list essentially ensures that you're in the very next class. And so I just want to make sure we get that information clearly. But this is different. This is because of the survivor benefits, they get to be on a priority list. It's a special list. I believe it's an incredibly exclusive list because of how you get on that list. I don't think it's something we can just legislate with a home rule petition and say he gets to have priority access. But back to you, Councilor Edwards, because the rest of that is accurate.
So the rest, so it's really an increase in spousal benefits, and then we'll find out if it's really, it is a priority list. So this would be countering the civil service list, or at least putting them ahead of that, or putting them on priority with the regular civil service.
Can you describe the priority list, Mr. O'Reilly, just so people know how the priority list works?
Yeah, so according to Chapter 31, which is in the civil service law, there's actually separate lists, and I know that you guys are working very diligently to try to rectify some of the way that we hire people to include, obviously, more diversity. So there is separate lists. So there is a DAV list, the Disabled American Veterans List. There is a Veterans List. There is what we call a Survivors List, which is usually one of the most shortest lists. You might find sometimes 2 or 3, maybe 4 names at any given time, tops, on that survivor list. And where that survivor list fits in is directly behind the DAVs. So according to Chapter 31, it would go disabled American veterans, survivors, and then veterans. Regular veterans, not disabled. So yeah, it does. And I believe you're correct, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that it can be legislated as a survivor, him as a survivor, unless they receive the Section 100. I would like to touch a little bit on, and this is where I think sometimes the short-sightedness comes in the legislative people's perception of the legislative attempt or intent of chapter or Section 100. So as you all know, we have also presumptions. We have the heart presumption, the lung presumption, and the cancer presumption. Basically, as you know, how they work is that if you pass a pre-employment physical that shows no evidence of heart, lung, or cancer, then it is presumed that you got the heart disease, the lung disease, or the cancer in the line of duty. However, those, and it says right here, and this is section 100. Let me see, it's towards the back, but it says the presumptions created by sections 94, 94A and 94B, which is our cancer, heart and lung, shall not be applicable to the death of any firefighter, police officer, corrections officer for which a prevention is provided under this section. So where the section 9, the big difference between the section 9 and the 100 is, you know, we have a member diagnosed with cancer, bladder cancer. He retires. He's living his life, retires on an accidental disability. He dies 8 years after retiring. His wife, his surviving spouse, would receive, right, because the presumptions are not applicable to section 100, she would receive an accidental, what they call an accidental death benefit. So to the eyes of some, a cancer, if you die of occupational cancer, to the eyes of some, it's considered, a line of duty death, but not in the sense of a section 100. The section 100 is specifically for those who are killed or died as a result of their injuries, responding to, working at, or returning from an incident. And in this case, Lieutenant Rodriguez died as a result. This wasn't like Lieutenant Rodriguez was retired or maybe even active, but sitting home.
I'm gonna cut you off there, Mr. O'Reilly, because I think we've already established that. I think, at least for me, I don't think anybody has any questions on that. So I just want to make sure that questions that we do have get answered. And so I appreciate the explanation for the Section 100 survivor benefits as it applies to the priority list. I don't know if Councilor Edwards has any other or further questions or comments, but I'd like to give her the ability to finish if she does. Okay, if she comes back to,
Sorry, if you can hear me, this is Lydia. I don't have any more questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Now we're going to go in order of arrival. The retirement board's not here. Mrs. Rodriguez, I want to just thank you for being present in case anybody does have any questions for you. I think one of the benefits to the Chapter 100 that isn't monetary and isn't your son being on the priority list is just the acknowledgement of the sacrifice that your husband made. I think that's also an important aspect to this that I think we should also keep in mind as we do this, is that it signifies officially on paper that your husband did pass away in the line of duty or in performing the actions of being in the line of duty. And so I know that we are focused more on the benefits themselves and not necessarily the designation of his life, but I think that's equally important. And I don't want you to read into any questions from my colleagues about benefits or anything like that as a question of your husband's sacrifice. It's just that the emotional impact of that isn't the same necessarily as the financial impact of the things that the council tends to take into consideration. So I just want to thank you again. And I don't know that I would like to give you a chance to give comment after everybody has spoken. And it can be as short or as long as you wish. But I do want to just go to the councilors to allow them to make their statements or say or ask any questions that they may have. And so in order of arrival, it's going to be Councilor Murphy. And we were joined, by the way, by Councilor Kenzie Bach, who is here with us today from District 8. And so I would like to go in order of arrival. It's Councilor Murphy at large first, followed by Ruthie Louis Jen at large second, followed by Council President Ed Flynn, followed by Councilor Brian Worrell, followed by Councilor Kenzie Bott. And so Councilor Murphy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And first, I just want to say to you, Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm very sorry. You're on a list that I would never want to be on, and I can probably say no one wants to be on. So just to state that first. And also thank you to the chair, Councilor Arroyo, for being so dedicated and diligently making sure that this comes back to the council floor. I'm looking forward to being able to vote on this tomorrow at the meeting. And just one comment to Mr. O'Reilly. Thank you for your clear explanation. There's no doubt in my mind that, you know, your husband, Mrs. Rodriguez, died in the line of duty. So thank you for that explanation. I know, like, after 9/11, there was lots of, you know, years later, first responders were dying from, you know, effects from that day. So like you said, and you explained greatly, that there's no doubt that his death was a result of him going to work that day and keeping our city safe. So thank you very much. I have no specific questions, just happy to be on this call. And thank you, Councilor Arroyo, for having this hearing so that tomorrow when we take a vote, we're informed. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Next is Councilor Rusi Louis-Jean.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Michael O'Reilly, and thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez, for being here. I'm so sorry for your loss and the sacrifice of your family, and glad that we're able to hear from you today. My questions are just technical so that I can understand the process here. What is the official process of switching from Section 9 benefit to Section 100 benefit? If I could get a little bit more clarity, like what is the official process for that undertaking? I understand this sounds like a special route, but what would the normal route be? What would that look like?
So the normal route, and thank you for your question, Councilor, and for being part of this hearing. So the normal route, if at the time, as I explained, you know, she had no idea what was being filed on her behalf. So
I understand.
I can only say that if I was in that situation, we would have petitioned the retirement board right from the get-go for a Section 100, and went that route. And wherever that happened, or you know, wherever the determination was, you know, it was. Again, in my mind, when you read the law, if you don't read into the law, but if you just read the law for what it's the legislative intent of it, then it absolutely rises to a level of Section 100. So because you know, like I said, there was some confusion. She was initially, unbeknownst to her, applied for the Section 9. Again, because of Leroy Jr., the age, whole thing, you know.
So let me just, if I can just butt in here, Mr. O'Reilly, I think the question is the process less than sort of the circumstances surrounding it. And so to answer that question specifically, you would file an application either for Section 100 benefits or Section 9 benefits. In this case, there was an application filed for Section 9 benefits, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then the way that process works under both of those situations is that it goes to the retirement board, which we had invited them. They are not here today. The retirement board would have issued a decision. In this case, because Section 9 benefits were requested, they issued a decision in favor of applying Section 9 benefits. At that point, if the board decision moves in favor of whatever is being requested, a Section 100 or a Section 9, it then moves to the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, and then, or PERAC, or PERAC, PERAC. The PERAC then issues a decision, and if PERAC is in favor, then the section benefits get granted. That's the same process. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. O'Reilly. It's the exact same chain of command and process for a Section 9 as a Section 100. So absolutely the same route. Okay. Yep. And so that's the process specifically. So less about what happened around the process, but just in terms of your question about the process, it gets filed with the retirement board. The retirement board then issues a decision. If the decision's in favor of giving them whichever benefits they ask for, it then moves to the Public Employment Retirement Administration Commission. Then they issue a decision. And if that's in favor, then they receive those benefits. Correct. So two boards sort of up the chain.
Understood. Yeah. So I guess my very specific question, though, is that benefits were granted under Section 9. Now benefits are being sought under Section 100. What would be the administrative process, not before us, right? Not before the City Council. What would be the administrative process to achieve benefits under Section 100 as of now? Would it be an appeal of the award of Section 9, or would it be a new application? I understand the time sensitivity of why this route, but what would the process be administratively if you weren't before the council to get those benefits under Section 100, if there weren't that, time sensitivity with the priority list?
So it would be the same process I just listed
So
out.
there would be no appeal of this.
It wouldn't be an
There would be
appeal.
no appeal of the Section 9. It would be a new application to the retirement board for the Section 100.
Okay. And do we know what is and maybe this was already discussed, and I'm sorry if I didn't catch it, but what is the financial difference between an award under Section 9 and one under Section 100?
Okay, so Section 9 and 100 do the same thing as far as the annuity savings account, which is the annuity savings account is what the member puts into the system. Just like all of you put money into the retirement system. The money that you actually put into retirement system, that goes into what they call your annuity savings account, okay? That money builds up, over the years. So whether it's a Section 9 or a Section 100, one of the first things that's done is they take that annuity savings account and they write a one-time, one lump sum payment check to the surviving spouse or beneficiary for the remaining balance of that annuity savings account.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, because he died active in the line of duty, it would have been the whole thing, whatever he had in there. Okay, that's the same. The difference is, so number one, under Section 9, there are no survivor benefits. So as far as, children or anything coming on. And the second thing is and the only other thing is
financial survivor benefits or the
No, survivor benefits as far as getting a job. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So for like Leroy Jr., there would be, if under the Section 9, there's no, he has no benefit to what we call survivor benefits for coming on the job. From a financial perspective, the difference is on a Section 9, the widow would receive 72% tax-free for the rest of her life. Now, the thing with Section 9s is you have to, Section 9s, so Section 9 comes after, most of your Section 9s are all, members who died from either like heart, lung, or cancer, because to receive a Section 9, you have to die from what you retired from. So there's very few people who go off on knee injuries that die from a knee injury. As a matter of fact, there's zero, right? So it's usually the heart, lung, and cancers. And if you died what you retired from, then your spouse will get that Section 9. And it's basically the same 72% that you were receiving. A Section 100 is basically that's it. It's 100%. So instead of 72% tax-free, it's 100% tax-free. So whatever Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez was making at the time of his death is what his surviving spouse or beneficiary, in this case would be Maria Rodriguez, she would receive that amount in a pension payment. That's the difference.
And that's what the home rule petition would give.
Correct. If approved by the legislature as well.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you.
And any further questions? No?
I don't have any further questions here. Thank you, Michael. And thanks again, Mrs. Rodriguez. Really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Council President Flynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Arroyo, and thank you. I want to say thank you to Michael and 718, but especially want to thank and acknowledge the service and sacrifice of the Rodriguez family to our city and to our country, especially during this painful time that an experience she's had. I was here at the last hearing and want to acknowledge your work, Councilor Arroyo, and your staff's work and working on this issue along with Councilor Consalvo. I think having this meeting is very important, especially with new councilors, because it gives us an opportunity, gives all councilors an opportunity to learn about, the service, the pain, the sacrifices of our dedicated city employees, including and especially firefighters like Lieutenant Rodriguez, who died in the line of duty. I don't have any questions other than to say, to express my sympathy to the Rodriguez family, but also to thank them for their service and sacrifice to our country and to our city. And, obviously I'm voting in favor of this tomorrow. I'm not in favor of this 100%. I'm in favor of this 200%. But this hearing today is critical because we need to continue to work on these issues and learn as much as we can. So just want to say thank you to you, Councilor Royal, to Michael at 718, but especially to Mrs. Rodriguez and the Rodriguez family.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll just, because his name came up, for folks in terms of the home rule petitions, folks listening or new councilors who may not know this, when a home rule petition gets out of the council and signed by the mayor, a state rep has to then sponsor it at the House in order for it to proceed. Rob Consalvo, State Representative Rob Consalvo, has agreed to do that. And so we do have a secured state representative to sponsor this at the House upon passage and signage. So I do want to give him credit as well for the work that he's willing to do once this leaves us. Councilor Worrell has the floor, followed by Councilor Bach.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Rodriguez family, for your service to our city. And thank you, Michael, for all your advocacy on behalf of firefighters. Most of my questions have been answered, so I have no further questions at this time, but this has been very informative, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. Councilor Bach, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I want to echo the thanks to the Rodriguez family. It's the greatest loss you can have on behalf of our city. And I think we all feel the weight of that. I also want to thank the chair for having this hearing. I think, these types of home rule petitions, when the council backs them, they are an extraordinary thing, and we should recognize that. We generally make general laws, not specific laws, not laws that say a particular person's name in them. And so when we do that, it's because of an extraordinary circumstance. And so I think it is really important for us to put on the record what that circumstance is, as we're doing here today, so that people understand kind of what rose to the level of us taking that action, and so that the council has some kind of clarity and sense of precedent about when it takes this action. I think what I really want to stress from a sort of legislative record perspective is it's a distinction that Michael made a minute ago about the fact that there's a number of people who are under Section 9 under accidental death, who, as you say, right, it's cancer, it's heart issues, et cetera. And I think that the key point that's being made today is that this, like, when we do something like this, we have to ask, when would the council do this same thing again, right? And I think what we're getting across today is, if another firefighter died from an operation immediately following and directly caused by an injury that they sustained in the line of duty, that is a situation in which the council, if it votes on this petition, would vote on a petition again, right? And I think that's important, just because I think probably there is a there's a whole set of arguments to be made about the distinction that's being made in law between accidental death, right, and line of duty death. And I know that there are folks who might feel like, Section 9 should just be Section 100, et cetera. But that type of general policy thing, that's up to the state legislature, and we're not able to act at that level. So I think that for the council, it's important to be clear on kind of what's the policy that we're setting today. And for myself personally, I think that I think that it's a clear distinction, and one that we can keep, right? One that if we were to see this situation again, I think that the council would feel similarly moved. I do think it's important to recognize that, to count to the point of Councillor Louis Jen's questioning, like we are as a council in some sense substituting our judgment for the retirement board's judgment in this case. The retirement board hasn't been asked to rule on the Section 100, but we are kind of jumping in ahead of them and saying, this is, for us, this meets the standard. But I do think that we're elected as democratic representatives to think, with the sense of the people of Boston, and ask ourselves the question, would the people of Boston recognize the extraordinary case in this case? And I feel confident that they would. So I want to put all that on the record, because I think that as a legislature, we do always have to think about precedent and norms, and we have to set clear expectations for folks coming after. And I don't think it would be responsible for this council to give a signal that it expected to support petitions to shift every accidental death award over to a Section 100 award, right? I think we just need to be clear about that. But I'm certainly prepared to support this petition tomorrow. And I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for being with us today, and express my condolences for your loss. And definitely my fingers crossed for Leroy Jr. And thanks, Mike, as well, for representing the family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Bakken.
Thank you, Councilor Bakken. I think with that, I think some of these questions probably would have been answered by the retirement board had they chosen to appear today, in terms of just the process and things of that nature. But I do thank you, Mr. O'Reilly, and especially Ms. Rodriguez, for being willing to be here present today, and to allow folks to know essentially what they're voting on tomorrow, and to let the public sort of understand the circumstances specific to this incident that led to this specific request of the council, and why we have deemed this something, or I hope we do, tomorrow. I know that I will be voting in favor of it, and I expect it will pass tomorrow, why we've deemed this as significant as we have. I do want to give you, because you are here, Ms. Rodriguez, if you have anything that you would like to say, I would like to give you the floor to say it. I don't want you to feel pressured to say anything if you would rather not, but I am grateful that you are here, and I am thankful that you were willing to sort of stick out this process. I'm sure it has been emotionally difficult to sort of want this remedied, and had to go through this process. And I can't speak to the legislature and how long that process may take, but I do know that we have assistance coming on that side from State Representative Consalvo, and I'll connect with Mr. O'Reilly and with you after this is over, to make sure that everything that we can do to assist in that, when it hopefully gets there, is done. But I would like to give you the floor if you have any comments that you would like to make at all. And again, don't feel pressured to make any. If you would rather not, you can just not. So thank you.
First of all, thank you to all the members here that have taken their time. You're busy, because I know you guys are really extremely busy, and to be able to hear this case as is so greatly appreciated from everyone. But I do want to answer, or at least to my knowledge of my understanding of all this section, the different types of section for the retirement board. Councillor Edward made one of her question was the reference, the difference between, that the doctor on the medical board indicated Section 9 versus Section 100. The way that I'm reading, the fact that the wellness program went ahead and did Section 9, I'm reviewing these documents as if the doctor just referenced Section 9 and nothing but Section 9. So she went ahead to award what was submitted, what she had in her hand. I think that if the wellness program or department would have went ahead and submitted section 100 from the get-go, then that would have automatically have been stated section 100. That's how I'm reading it. As I read the tweets that the former commissioner, and he actually sat in my house among my whole family and indicated that my husband died in the line of duty, that in itself and the way that he was honored, there is no guessing game there. Why would someone in that level of position put themselves by saying those words, knowing that it's going to be tweeted, it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be on social media, if in fact he did not die in the actual line of duty? So with that being said, to answer City Councilor Edward, yes, I see that the doctor just put section 9, but that's what was presented to the doctor at that time. So if in fact the board would have submitted the paperwork the way that the way it should have been, which is section 100, and then work our way down if need be, then yes, I could see why there's this huge discrepancy of the difference between section 9 and section 100. I personally had no clue what the sections were. There's 3 different retirement. I have no clue what they were. I am just learning all of this process. So if I would have known then what I know now, I would have asked the board right from the beginning, no, submit section 100, because let's work our way down. If that gets denied, then okay, we get section 9, whatever the case may be, and then we'll appeal. But in this case, we're now working our way up versus, or we're trying, I guess, yeah, working way up. So I just want to make sure that that's also on the table, that I am very well knowledge of now, this different forms of retirement sections. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have definitely had requested right from the beginning, section 100, to make it clear on paper. And then if it got denied then okay, then we move on. But everyone, in the eyes of those looking from the outside in, everyone says Leroy Rodriguez, Lieutenant Leroy Rodriguez, lied in the actual line of duty. So I thank you all for your support and your commitment to this case, and pray for the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. And I do appreciate the context that that letter was written based on the application for section 9, and thus the reference to section 9, because they were making a determination as to that specific application. So I do appreciate sort of having that on the record as well. One thing I would like on the record before I adjourn is that there will be a small amendment to what's in front of you. Currently, the title of the petition says retirement benefits, an act granting certain retirement benefits. It's actually going to change to an act granting certain death benefits to the widow. So it's just one change. It takes the word retirement, replaces it with the word death, so that the title better indicates what is happening here. And so tomorrow you'll be seeing an edited, amended version. That is what the amended version will say. Thank you to both of you. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Thank you to your family and everyone who was deeply impacted by the passing of Firefighter Rodriguez. I speak, I think, on behalf of the city of Boston, frankly, with our gratitude for the work that he has done and the work that our first responders do. This is certainly a risk in terms of folks who respond to fires, folks who respond to events where it could be a life-changing, in fact, life-ending experience. And it's certainly a risk that we don't take lightly. So thank you very much for your service and for the service, hopefully, eventually, of your son who has decided to enter into the same work as his father, which I think is incredibly courageous considering. And so please thank him as well on our behalf. I do hope he sticks with it. And I do hope that we get this before that time hits. And so this will be up tomorrow for a vote. It will have an amended version that instead of retirement benefits will say death benefits to make it very clear. And so I thank the council for their diligence. I thank them for attending today and for being sure to look this over and give this I think the importance and the seriousness that it requires in terms of our focus and attention. So thank you to all of you. And with that, I will adjourn. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
one quick question before we adjourn.
Yes.
Should either myself or Maria be prepared to offer any remarks or testimony tomorrow, or
No,
should we just watch it?
you can watch it. It'll go up for a vote. I expect, my hope is that it will pass. When it goes up for a vote, I will read the committee report. I will essentially summarize what took place here today, what took place in September, and how
Okay.
we've gotten to where we've gotten. But neither one of you needs to participate in any way. And then I will connect with both of you regarding sort of the next step, which is it then has to get signed by the mayor. And then once the mayor signs it, it goes over to the House. And I believe Representative Rob Consalvo has agreed to take this. I believe he's also your representative as well. And so it should be, next steps should go from there. But I will keep you posted. But there's no need for you to reappear at all. So thank you both for taking the time to do this and being willing to do so if necessary tomorrow. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And thank you all. We
Thank you.
really appreciate your time, taking the time out of your busy schedules to hear this. Thank you. And thank you for your committed service as well to the city, making it the best city to possibly live and work in. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you, everybody.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
This hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
Bye.